1884, Vienna. A struggling young doctor, Sigmund Freud, wrote to his fiancée Martha about a new interest: cocaine.
If you are forward, you shall see who is the stronger, a gentle little girl who doesn't eat enough, or a big wild man who has cocaine in his body. In my last severe depression, I took coca again, and a small dose lifted me to the heights in a wonderful fashion.
Historian Howard Markel says Freud first learned about cocaine in medical journals.
Well, what's fantastic about this journal and many like it, it was published by a drug company, by a pharmaceutical house called Parke-Davis, which, not by coincidence, happened to be the major manufacturer of cocaine.
Cocaine comes from leaves of the coca plant. Native Americans and Spanish explorers have known this plant for centuries. But by the 1880s, big companies, what we'd call big pharma, were distilling the raw leaf into a new drug.
Which, of course, doctors love because they want to give an exact, precise dose to their patients.
In Vienna, Dr. Freud was fascinated. In 1884, he wrote the first major description, 70 pages, über Coca, about cocaine. By then, the secret was out.
It was the miracle drug. If you had a stomach ache, if you were nervous, if you were lethargic, if you needed energy, if you had tuberculosis, if you had asthma, if you had all sorts of things, it was going to cure what you had. And this was how it was advertised, too.
For the Parke-Davis Company, cocaine was a blockbuster, but others sold it too. One popular product was Vin Mariani, endorsed, says Dr. Markel, by Thomas Edison, Queen Victoria, and even Pope Leo XIII. French Bordeaux, with 6 milligrams of cocaine in every ounce. In Atlanta, a Civil War vet named John Pemberton made a copycat wine, and then had to shift gears when his hometown put a ban on alcohol.
So the great mother of invention, he took cola nuts and soda water and syrup and made the refreshing drink we call Coca-Cola.
Meanwhile, by the mid-1890s, Sigmund Freud was flirting with disaster, as he wrote in an 1895 letter.
I need a lot of cocaine.
He finally probably stopped using it after he and a friend of his used cocaine on a patient and nearly killed her.
By then, other doctors worried too.
Too many people were taking too much cocaine, and then these patients were presenting basically as addicts who needed the stuff. They couldn't live without it. And so that's when doctors began to say, we better rethink this.
By 1903, there was no more cocaine in Coca-Cola. By 1920, cocaine was illegal without a doctor's prescription.
But you saw it even into the 1920s and 1930s. The Cole Porter song, I Get No Kicks from Champagne, the next lyric is,
some get a kick from cocaine.
One sniff bores me terrifically.
I'm sure that if I took one sniff, that would bore me terrifically too.
You saw it as well in Charlie Chaplin's Modern Times. He's in jail at one point, and he accidentally takes cocaine that he thinks is salt because another jailbird puts his supply of cocaine in the salt shaker. He's doing all sorts of wonderfully wacky things under the influence. So you saw cocaine mentioned in movies and songs and stories all the time, well into the 1930s in this country and elsewhere. It then had a lull. It didn't come back until the mid to late 70s and early 80s, when again cocaine was the glamour drug.
The new soundtrack was Eric Clapton.
Cocaine.
It was the drug that all the rock stars used and the glitterati. It was freely consumed at places like Studio 54. It was really part of the popular zeitgeist in the late 1970s that this was an entirely safe drug that was clean and pure and could be abused safely.
Just like a century before, it was a mirage. No more Charlie Chaplin. The new image was more like Scarface. What would Sigmund Freud, think about Scarface?
That's an interesting question. I imagine he would have been shocked.
By the mid-1980s, there was crack, crime, and rampant addiction. Today we know addiction is at least in part a physical disease. we understand more.
I would hope that more people are skeptical of grandiose claims of new drugs, new pharmaceutical agents. But we all, in our heart of hearts, want a magic bullet that will cure what ails us.
A magic bullet. The hope that keeps miracle drugs in business time and time again.